let's get started. Just wanted to start off with a bit of a check-in. I know last week I saw a few of you um, at the meeting at our class meeting where we were doing the final Scratch pieces. So there's several of you that I haven't seen for a few weeks. So I just wanted to take a moment to kind of check in and make sure everybody's good in terms of where they are with projects and what's going on. The Scratch projects themselves should be underway at this point, but again, you've got some time on those. They're not due till sometime at the end of the month. I think it's the 30th or something like that. So you have some time to work on those projects. But certainly if you finish them up ahead of time and want to submit them, then there's no reason not to. Just remember that there's a paperwork piece that gets submitted through the assignment in Moodle. And then there's the actual Scratch project itself, which you will be sharing with the studio in Scratch for our final projects. And that'll be how I see the project itself. So no rush on that, but feel free to start chipping away at that project and get that underway. And if any questions come up along the way, particularly if you're trying to figure out how to get Scratch to do a particular thing, you can certainly run those ideas by me, and maybe I can suggest a combination or an approach in terms of the blocks that are available to get whatever you want to have happen to happen. So that's underway. Obviously our game projects are underway, and that's mainly what tonight is about, is to get some feedback on your ideas for the game. We're going to do a series of kind of round robin pitch meeting style of breakouts so that groups can share their ideas with other people in the class, mainly to get feedback and mainly to maybe catch some things early on before you get too far down the process of getting the games developed, in case somebody else maybe catches a potential issue or something you might want to address or a different approach that you might want to take. So that's the main goal tonight. And that should mean at this point that the game project instructional design pieces are mostly done. You know what the game is trying to achieve instructionally. You know who your target audience is. You've got maybe a rough idea at this point of what kind of a game it is. Certainly, you probably don't have all the rules developed at this point or anything like that, but at least a rough idea of this is the kind of game it's going to be, and this is roughly how the game is going to be played, kind of a thing. So, and then once we get through tonight, your groups should each have hopefully a lot of useful feedback that you can then go through, incorporate into your projects. Remember, you don't need to take everybody's advice. You may get suggestions tonight that that in the end you decide are not the direction you want to go or you don't want to incorporate, and that's totally fine. But basically speaking, the more ideas you can get, the more eyes and brains you can get looking at your projects, then that will only help them further along. So after tonight, the games should start shifting more into sort of a production phase in terms of where the focus of the work is. Next week is an asynchronous week, and I purposefully planned that because next week is the week of our actual production. So I will be basically out next week, and that's why for those of you in 5:30 is also asynchronous next week. And then as it so happens, the week after is Central's spring break week. So after tonight's class, we won't be back together as a group until a few weeks from now after the Central spring break. And once we get back after the spring break, a lot of the classes start shifting more into sort of lab work weeks. A lot of those weeks I will be on campus. So if groups want to come on campus to work, to get together with their groups, to do stuff on the projects, that's going to become more of an option as we head into the second half of the course. And I'll just confirm that on a sort of week by week basis. So that's a bit of a look back and a bit of a look forward. For those of you in 5:30, I apologize for the late notice yesterday. It was related to the show. We ended up having a rehearsal that ran much later than we thought it was going to, and so that was the reason that I had to cancel last night. Um, for any of you in that class that are having Audacity issues, I did post some information today about an alternative for Audacity. So feel free to check that out and reach out to me if you have questions or concerns there. For those of you that are in that class, which is honestly most of you actually. So um, all right. So anything else I've forgotten? Anything else that I need to go over right now? Questions, concerns? Where are we? Where should we be? All right. That seems like a meaningful silence there. Um, all right. So let's um let's get started with the main activity tonight. Um, as I started trying to plan out what the most useful way was to do the activity tonight. I realized that the math was kind of working against me in the past. Like last year, I think we had 10 students in the class, so it was much smaller, but we had three game groups, and each group either had three or four people in it. So it was really easy to do a round robin where basically one person from each group went into one of three groups, and everything sort of divided up nicely, and then we could rotate one and so on. Because we've got groups with one person, groups with two people, groups with three people, we've got 8 groups total. It's a little trickier. So I think what I'd like to do is as follows: is we're going to do 3 rounds. So everybody is not going to get a chance to hear everybody else's projects uh, outlines, um, just because we don't have the time and with the number of groups that we have. So, but we will do 3 rounds. I'm going to keep the groups together. So if you're in a 2 or a 3 person group, you're going to stay together. And what I'm going to do in each round is just pair off. So we've got 8 groups. So we'll have 4 rooms. We'll have 2 groups per room. Um, and then we'll get some time to do the back and forth, and then we'll basically just rotate. So a different 2 different groups will be together, and then we'll do that one more time. I think probably 3 times is enough for you to get a range of feedback from a range of people, and also kind of keep things manageable in terms of how much time it will take tonight. So that's the general plan: is we'll have 4 breakout rooms, and there will be 2 groups within each room at any given time. um, I think the person we're missing right now, let me double check. Yeah, the one person we're missing right now is part of one of the 3 person groups, so that's good. So we've got at least one person from every group here. We're just missing one right now. So the idea will be, when you get into the room, is to kind of divide the time in half and start with one of the projects presenting their ideas. And that may take a minute or two. And then have the other group provide their feedback. And, the important thing about the feedback is you want to ask questions. I mean, the point of this is meant to help further the design process. So it's useful for a group to hear if you like their ideas and you think things sound good. But with the sort of the limited amount of time we have, and for this to be as meaningful as possible, you want to try to almost like poke holes in the idea. And obviously, that's not coming from a perspective of trying to be mean or trying to put down another group's project, but the goal is to try to help the project be as airtight as possible. So, listen to what the group says when they present, kind of think through what that would mean for you, and then see if you have any thoughts or any things that come to mind where you'd be like, oh, well, did you think of this? Or, I did something similar like this in a class of mine, and this was an issue that I ran into. Um, just to, again, make the most use of the time that we have is to give that constructive feedback. You can absolutely say positive things. I'm not saying don't say anything positive, but do, treat it like I'm kind of visualizing this like a pitch meeting. If you don't know what that is, like when a group of writers goes to a movie, a movie company or a television studio, and has an idea, like they basically have to sell the idea to the studio executives. And then the studio executives sit there and they sort of poke holes in the idea, not to try to knock it down, but to try to make the idea better and to see if the idea is solid. So kind of treat it in that way. The first couple of minutes, you'll be giving your pitch to the other group, and then let the other group kind of respond to that pitch and see what kind of feedback you get. In terms of what you should present for your project, you should obviously say what the instructional goals are for the project. What do you want the students to learn or be able to do by the end of the game? You should talk about what type of project what type of game it is, as much as you know. And again, these, we haven't done a lot on the production side yet, but maybe a rough outline of what kind of gameplay you think is going to happen. So, anything that you have at this point that can help the other group understand sort of where your group is headed, so that then they can respond to that. So I'm thinking, I don't know, I was going back and forth. 10 minutes per rotation might be a little short, because then that's just 5 minutes for a group to present and get their feedback. So maybe 15 is a better. I'll say this: if a group gets done with their discussion and both groups have presented and gotten their feedback, and there's still time left, feel free to come back to the main room. And if I notice that everybody has come back to the main room and the 15 minutes isn't up, then we'll just move on to the next rotation. But I have a feeling that with the discussions that are going to happen, even getting 7 minutes per group, it might be pushing it in some cases. So we'll aim for 15. So that'll give us roughly 45 minutes total, which seems like a good amount of time to discuss. And then, honestly, we'll sort of wrap things up at that point, for the evening. All right. Did I explain that clearly enough? So breakout room, one group presents to the other group gives their feedback, and then you switch roles about halfway through. The other group presents, the other group gives the feedback, and then when you're done, either the time will be up or come back to the main room, and we will move on from there. Oh, one other thing, in terms of record keeping, there is in the wiki, I did put a sub page on everybody's group page at the bottom for alpha testing feedback. You can feel free to use that if there's one person in your group, or if you're working by yourself. If you want to have that page open so that you can type in notes, feel free to use that, but you don't have to. Some of you may just want to jot notes down by hand or type them up somewhere else, or whatever. But you might want to make sure that there's some way for you to record some of the ideas that you get, just so that later on you can go back to it and say, oh yeah, there was something that one group said that was a really good idea, kind of what was that? So there is a place in the wiki on Moodle for you to do that, or just, take notes however you want from there. All right, so with that said, this is going to be the trickiest thing for me, is to make sure that I get everybody into the right sessions. So give me a moment here. So what I'm going to do, we've got 4 one-person groups and we've got 4 multi-person groups. So I'm going to always pair up one of the one-persons with one of the multi-person groups, just so we kind of keep the number of people in each room similar. So we're going to start off with groups 1 and 4 together, groups 2 and 5, groups 3 and 6, and groups 8 and 7. So Let me do this here. So I should have room 1 is going to be Steph, and group 4 is Rachel, Anna, and Tyler. Where's Anna? There's Anna. Okay, so that's going to be breakout group 1. Group 1. 2 is going to be Nicole. And with group 5, we've got Jolie and Vesteni. Jolie, all right, that's going to be room 2. Room 3, we're going to have Julia. And group 6, which Carrie's not here, but we've got Cassie and Jacob. Jacob and Cassie, so that's going to be room 3. And that should leave us with our final group, which is going to be Jess and group 7, Cody, Alexis, and Hannah. Perfect, that all worked out. Okay, that wasn't too bad. All right, so we'll plan on 15 minutes. But like I said, come back if you're done early. And maybe I'll check in around the 12-minute mark or so and see if any group feels like they need more time. But we'll see how we do with the 15 minutes, and then we can make adjustments from there. All right? So help each other out. This is all in the spirit of getting feedback, of helping the development of these games, of getting the ideas in front of some fresh ears and fresh brains, and just seeing what you can get out of it. All right? So good luck. Here come the breakout sessions, and we'll see everybody back here in about 15 minutes.